to episode 5, week 7 of the football season 2020. And with us is Coach Bill Neese as we are into the Bill Neese's Coaches Show. Coach, we had a lot of great things happen on Friday night. First thing that happened was the Indians dominated both sides of the ball and shut out Sydney 44-0. Indians claimed the battered helmet once again. The Indians finished off a regular season 6-0 and undefeated for the first time since 1999.
Right.
And behind us is a trophy that's significant. So we are the Dayton Daily News regular season champions for Division II. Our trophies have seemed to pick up from week 1. And in 6 weeks, we've picked up quite a few trophies and hardware to show the hard work and success that this team's had. Best part about it is we get to start yet another season, a short season here in a week. Talk about playoffs, which we will hear in a little bit, but Friday night was awfully special for Piqua football, for Piqua City schools, and for the Piqua community.
Exactly. And, we went into the game understanding, and I think the biggest thing that we did is went into the game understanding, what an excellent football team that Sydney is. And our preparations that week were amazing in terms of our film work, in terms of what our players were asked to do and what they were doing, some adjustments that we had to make. And I think overall, we could have asked for anything more. The big bonus, I think, of the game was the special teams play.
Oh, yeah.
I think the special teams play, I never thought that we would be able to get that kind of pressure on their punter. We knew Dre was dangerous, and it's especially dangerous coming out of the locker room with him catching a ball and returning it for the half because he was jacked up, ready to go, ready to do that, and that squad was ready to go. So I think all those things were also involved too.
Coach, we came out of the gates. It was the first time, and I don't know statistically, I know Lloyd Shoemaker used to keep track of these stats. I do not. But the one thing that stands out was that we deferred, and we were on defense the first time. I don't know if that's happened a lot this year. Typically, we've had the ball.
Right.
We deferred that time. Let me ask you that question. Was that strategic on our part? We wanted to come out and play defense right from the get-go?
No, I think actually everybody prefers to defer, and this is the first time. The simple answer is the first time we won the coin toss.
I thought it was some.
I wish I could give you some strategic advice that our analytics told us that we should do this because of the shift of the wind and things along the lines. But it's the fact that we won the toss, and usually the other team wins the toss, they defer, and we choose to take the ball. And it's always nice. It just seems like it's always good. It's a nice cushion to have a possession after halftime. You come out and get it. And it depends. The thing with our team is we, although that's what we choose, we make sure we understand that if we're on offense first, that's just as good. It's just as good, and we see it that way. So whichever way it happens, we put the spin on it, and we go.
Well, the spin was we deferred, they took the ball, and actually they were moving the ball a few plays.
Yeah.
And then the big thing that happens that you don't want, if you're on offense, that's a turnover. We jumped the turnover and we turned it into points pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean they were moving it, and I think they ended up and had 2 first downs to start, and they ran a pitch, and it just kind of bounced off the shoulder pad, and our defensive end was right there. I think our defensive end and the ball kind of arrived at the same time. It was unfortunate situation for them, and we were able to capitalize on it. And the big thing is once we got the football, that we went down and scored, rather than what has happened to us last week where we didn't score after a turnover.
Fairly quickly, and if I fast forward it, again, we're up 24-0 before you could even bat an eye, and we had a lot of short field to work with.
Yeah, and then, the field position was great, and it's been great, a lot of times of the year, and it helps. Our defense helps our field position, and I think also our kickers obviously help. Austin Burns and Jackson Trombley, our punter and our kicker, those guys are excellent, and you don't want to forget, Ozzie and Brennan Johns, our 2 snappers, and then Brady's in the middle getting that thing organized. Jarrell's in the middle, the punt team getting that organized. So there's a lot of moving parts when you get into the actual mechanics of a kick. It's not just the kicker itself, but in the extra point team, you've got to have that snapper, that holder, and the kicker. and the same thing that we do on punt. Ozzy's got to get that ball back 15 yards. Jarrell's got to get the protection just exactly right, and then Burnsy's got to let it loose.
Well, if you were to, in our previous coaches shows, you're talking a lot about special teams, and of course if you're firing on all pistons for offense and defense and special teams and everything's going your way, which that was the situation for the Indians on Friday night, the score spoke for itself, and we just kept up momentum going into the second half.
Yeah, that's true, and it's so true. Last year there was at least 2 games I know for sure that our special teams let us down, and offensively you can always point and say this was this, but just some simple things like, if they had not returned a kickoff for a touchdown, a 97-yard, that should never happen. And if that didn't happen, we probably would have won the Lima Senior game. It's situations like that. Those are the things that we stress quite a bit. And the good thing is, with a veteran team like we have now, those kids were all there when it happened. It's not like I'm talking about something and nobody knows what I'm talking about. They were all in Lima. We all witnessed it. We all experienced it. So we don't want it to happen again. And we saw some of the bad things that happened. Great lesson. We saw some of the bad things that happened with Sydney's special teams. And so tonight at practice, we're out there practicing our punt, and I said, hey, this is why we got to keep doing this. You've got to just keep working at it. And even then, you're not guaranteed.
Well, I think when you listen to our players talk, they talk about repetition, and we do it over and over and over again, whether it's special teams, defense, or offense. You're building habits, and you're building those habits so when that situation arises, it's not something that is a surprise to you. You're just essentially reacting on instinct.
Yeah, and those are the kind of things, especially on special teams, you have to do, because every week there's somebody that's not in the right position because somebody got hurt or somebody got dinged or somebody's tired, and we've got a pool. We got a pool of 2 or 3 guys that when a starter gets tired, we've got some starters on our special teams, and if Ronnie Coleman's just had a long run or Tanner Kemp or something like that, then bang, here comes somebody from that pool, and so those guys got to know what they're doing too, because one guy getting out of their lane, one guy not getting the protection right, it only takes one person to block a punt. It's not a group. It only takes one person to get out of a lane, have a guy go through for a touchdown. So everybody's got to be on board with what's happening.
Our defense continues to swarm and to be very challenging for offenses that we've faced so far this year. When you look at the last 4 games, we've not given up a touchdown, and we really present people problems because of our speed, which we've talked about in previous shows, because of our physicality and also our football intellect. You put all those 3 things together, and it, for Sydney, you could just see after the end of the first quarter, the body language was, we're in trouble, and we don't know if we can get ourselves out of this one.
It's hard sometimes if a group is clicking, and it just seems like everything's going your way, and no matter what sport it is, it just happens. The confidence level builds, and it just becomes more and more and more. It's really hard to get out of that vacuum. It just seems like this is coming at you, like there's 14 guys on the field.
Yeah.
And then there's some games, like I said in the paper, there's some games where it seemed like we had 6 guys on the field on defense, that there were so many holes. So it's not the thing I like about our players, and when you listen to them talk in the newspapers and the radio guys and stuff, everybody to a man defers, deflects, the success to somebody else. There's nobody out there sitting saying, well, yeah, basically it was all me. And I think either that or they haven't met that. They haven't interviewed whoever it might be, but I don't think we have anybody like that. But I think the important thing is that everybody knows that fame is all temporary. That within the next week, you got to redo it again. And next week from now, there's no more trophies. There's no more battered helmets. The prize is you get to play again. The consequence is you go home. So I think that's the whole nother level of what we're talking about now.
The conversation of you're only as good as your next game really applies greatly now as we move into the postseason.
Oh yeah.
Before we talk about postseason, we've talked a lot about our defense the last couple of weeks, and obviously they continue to get kudos. Let's talk a little bit about our offense. We had a lot. We throw some weapons, not just in a run game. Kron continued to have great, outstanding play, scoring. Tanner Kemp continued to run, but we got some passing game going on.
Yeah, we had 3 different people catch touchdown passes for us. Dre Roberts had a huge night. As one of our inside receivers. I think Keegan Patton was able to get out on the jet a couple times. Corey Miller was able to get out on the jet a couple times, and that receiving core there's about 6 of them. They go in there and they block and they just go after people and go up and catch the ball. Have been extraordinary. And the other big thing, I think personally, the biggest improvement we've seen on our offense is our offensive line. The reason why I say that is because weeks 1 and 2 we had one guy. Our offensive line gets graded on every play, and then they get an overall grade for the game. And our offensive line had one guy grade above an 80%. First game of the season. Second game, nobody in the 90s. Second game of the season, we had another guy grade 80. We had a guy go up to about 85, 87. Caleb Lyons has always had been our big grade guy. And then we moved in last week. We moved in and Zach McGuire graded out over 80. He's our center. And now this past week, Jacob Hepner came in above 80. So right now, at the end of the game on Friday night, when grades came out, we had 4 of our 5 offensive linemen grading out at least 80%, which is that is a very good score. 90 is going to be the highest you get. Nobody's going to grade out 100%. It's like baseball where 300 is a good average. 80% is a great average in football. And we're looking forward to our last guy. He graded out 77. And so he's excited that he's going to be able to get in that mold. But they're really hitting their marks right. They're really hitting their targets and their tracks right. Depending on what defense they're playing, we're setting doubles sometimes. Other times, it doesn't require a double. It just requires, a drive block. And I think they're starting to understand finally, how to use these blocks and how to get their feet right. Their shoulders and heads have always been right. The feet give them the problems. On defense, our eyes give us problems. We don't. If we're looking in the wrong spot, we're cooked. On offense, our feet give us problems. If our feet are not in the right spot, we're not blocking anybody. So I think those guys have really gone. I give great credit to our offensive line and what they've done.
Well, it's often been said for many, many, many years that the offensive line is not the ones that get the glory. They're the ones that's they're in the trenches putting the work. So the skill guys can get those plays done.
Exactly.
Our offensive line, though, showed a great deal of domination Friday night.
They did. They kept Brady Old clean, and one of the nice things about it is we've had a great tradition of offensive linemen, here, and I think they've done a great job. As a matter of fact, I wanted to, while we bring this up, the battered helmet, we also have on the back there, if you'll notice, on the back we honor 2 of our former players. We have Sam Pearson, and then we have a 71 which has a bomb that is named for one of our assistant coaches and one of our former players, John Apple. Yeah. This year we came upon the 5th anniversary of his death, and I'd just like to make sure everybody gets a little remember of that. We give out that award every week to our big hit, what we call the big bomb hit, and that was his trademark. As he was coaching, also he was a professional wrestler, and his finish move was the A-bomb, where he used to say he would come off the top rope, but it was usually the second rope. Yeah. And he would come off the top rope with the big body slam, the big old Haystacks Calhoun deal. And so we just wanted to celebrate that, and I wanted to make sure that people can see, that we're still honoring him and, honoring the memory, especially as we're talking about the offensive line. I think that was important because he was our offensive line coach. He's probably one of the greatest offensive linemen we've had.
Well, as you said, we've had a great tradition of linemen that have helped our skill guys to get it done, and this is no different. And you have seen growth, or not just you, but we have seen growth in that. And it's exciting to know that we haven't peaked yet. Our best football is still ahead of us.
Oh, definitely.
And while we've been able to enjoy some success, and we've said, hey, you're only good as your next game, it's also special to know that, hey, we can get a lot better, and we can improve on so many different facets of the game.
That's the neatest part of it is we just get done with practice. We don't have a game this weekend. You wouldn't know the difference between this Monday or the Monday that we played Troy. would not know the difference in the intensity level, the competitiveness, the entire process. We went in, we have what's called our power hour, which we have our ones against ones in an inside run game, and that had great intensity during the power hour. We got some of our other special team stuff that we do, and any of our competitive stuff. The end of practice was over with, and everybody had kind of expected us to, it was going to be over with. And I said the dreaded words that every player hates, and that is everybody on the goal line. And which means we're going to run. And I listened very closely, and I did not hear a single groan. Did not hear a single groan. All I said was, what's the challenge? Here we go. And so I think we're on the right track.
Well, Coach, I think with the experience of our kids have had the last few weeks, and particularly Friday night, they're starting to see they're reaping the rewards of their hard work, and they know that, hey, if we continue to do this, who knows what could be at the end of that rainbow. Right. But certainly we're not going to know that if we don't put the time into it. And it's nice that they see it in a return on their investment and the fruits of their labor. Yep. And I would anticipate that intensity is not going to stop for you during practice. It's not,
and we talked tonight at our meetings. We know. Whereas the good news is you have a bye. The bad news is you have a bye, because there's goods and bads to the whole thing, and we're going to do the best we can to make that beneficial to us. Meaning we're going to stay as healthy as we can. Going to get our bodies in shape. We're going to be able to get 2 extra lifts in this week in the weight room, which in the middle of the season is huge. Unbelievable. What a cool thing to be able to have done. So all those things are going to be important. So that's going to be in it. We're going to spend a little time with Lima Senior and Harrison this week, and depending on who's going to win, we'll see.
Well, let's talk a little bit about our playoffs and what that's going to look like. We talked briefly about that last week because we were focused still on Sydney. We are in a bye week, which is a little unusual. That means that we have earned ourselves a 3 seed, and we get to get ourselves healed up. And we chose not to play in a bye week. We could have, but we said, hey, we want to keep ourselves healthy, practice, lift, and do some of those other things. What that as a coach, though, you're a coach of routine. What is that for you now that you have to create maybe some new routines for this week and with an extra week off?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that you have to be able to look at both teams and see what similarities they have that you can practice that week, and try to look at anything unusual either team does, and see if you can get that ironed out early on. So I think that's going to be one thing. I think the other thing is going to be the fact that we're the conditioning is just going to have to be up. When you say there's a bye week, that just means we're not playing an opponent. We're going to do everything the same as we've done the entire week, and Friday we're probably going to get we're going to get some hitting in, and we're going to get as much as we can physicality wise. So we'll keep up our physicality throughout the week. So I think it'll be a little bit different, but not much. It's not. I told the guys this tonight. It's just like a normal summer practice. We lifted today. We go out. We practiced our punt team. We practiced our kickoff team. We practiced our power game. And we went through our tackling stations, and just because there's not a specific opponent.
So it's one of the templates that we use in the summer. We just slip that in there. They know what that is.
Popped it in and go. Now tomorrow night when they see the parachutes and the speed improvement stuff come out, then they'll see that also.
Start twitching a little bit, maybe.
I might hear a groan on that one. If they see the parachutes, there might be a little groaning, but they'll get through it.
Well, Coach, it's been a while since the Piqua Indians have actually hosted a game here at Alexander Stadium. I believe the conversation we had last week was the last time we played. I don't know what the year was, but we played Edgewood here. So it's been quite a few years since we've hosted. It'll be nice to be able to play in our own building, in our own field. Winner of that game between us and either Harrison or Lima Senior will then move on to play the next round, and that would too also be, if we were fortunate enough to win that game, be another home game that we'd be able to play here. And we don't want to get too far down the road because we want to talk the here and now, but we have the opportunity, if we take care of business and continue to play the way we played, to have a couple home games outside of just not having an opponent this week. That's a nice start to the playoffs.
It is, and as you said, we want to take them one step at a time, and I know every once in a while you can kind of peek over the top and see what's going on, but you better get back in that foxhole pretty quick and keep digging. But generally speaking, we're in a good position right now, and it's a good time. Everybody needs to enjoy it a little bit, the fact fact that we've had a good regular season, rewarded in the playoffs, but not enjoy it so much that we forget about the fact that it's now time to move on.
There is a balance of keeping your head down and working hard, but being able to stop, look up, smell the roses, so to speak, because it doesn't happen every day, and you want to enjoy the moment because you worked hard for it. But again, keep it in perspective that you can put yourself back into the foxhole when you need to.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing that we try to teach our players, and that is that when it's time, it's time. When the whistle blows, it's time. And it's amazing. They're out there. There's 60 people out there screaming, yelling, doing whatever, and the coaches walk out, whistle blows, it's dead silence, and they get in their stretch lines.
Well,
nothing like, hey, let's go, let's get moving, boom, and it's every day. It's every day.
Well, that comes from focus, and that comes from focus of players. And let's talk about some of those players. Senior Kron Coleman, who was our feature senior, and Damien Woods. Talk a little bit about Damien, and then we'll talk about Kron. How are those two guys been an impact here for not just you as a coach, but for the Piqua Indians?
Well, Woodsy's been just a great addition to our team. At one point, he had been a walk-on, and then he just moved himself into the weight room and got himself involved with virtually everything he could. Now he's a staple. He's a staple, and he is living proof that you find a niche, you find something in any organization, you find something that you do that no one else does, and people rely on you. And he's our guy when it comes to field goals and extra points and different things along those lines. He's running around. He's got 3 footballs in his hand. He's constantly on the move, doing stuff. And it got to the point then we would have what are called the Woodsy Challenges, which would be during the summer, in order for practice to end, Woodsy would have to go through 2 or 3 different situations where he had to catch a ball, maybe with a ball in his hand at one time with this, and then the players could bet whether or not they're going to be with Woodsy or whether or not, and if they lose, they're going to have to run. And so they've really enjoyed it, and really enjoyed the whole thing. And usually we end every practice with 1 extra point. Somewhere in the thing we end it with 1 extra point, and Woodsy catches it, practice is over with. If Woodsy doesn't catch it, we keep on going. And so he can be
it's a major responsibility.
He's probably got more pressure on him than I do sometimes.
Kron Coleman, the numbers speak for themselves this year, what he's been able to do statistically. But I don't know, as well as he's been playing on both sides of the ball, because he's a statistical leader in our league on both sides. It's what he does in this locker room, Coach. It's just unbelievable.
He is the hardest working human being I've ever been around, period. And he's the epitome of he works hard in everything he does. It's not just football. It's not just the weight room. It's school. It's whatever the case may be. He has a job. He works hard at his job. And he is one of the most focused people I've ever seen. He's going to be a great college football player. And, he's kind of a quiet guy, but we got kind of niche a little bit that we talk about, weightlifting, and we talk about working out and stuff like that, because he really enjoys theories on working out and different angles about, muscle development and things along those lines. So I was telling a couple of people beforehand that during the pandemic thing, when we were shut down, he was emailing me some body workouts and some other things, asking me what I thought about it. And he had put together this entire plan of how he was going to work himself out with just like a rubber band, a popsicle stick, and a tree or something. And he had it all worked out how he was going to do it. And when he came back, I'll tell you what, he was in shape. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how many push-ups that poor kid did, but when he came back, he was in shape.
We talked about the pandemic a little bit, about those kids that come back from pandemics. A lot of kids you were hoping that would come back close to, you have to work on a little bit. You knew you were going to lose some kids because they didn't have access to weights. But we had a handful of kids that actually came back better, either through weight or strength.
They did.
And he was one of them.
Yeah. And I was very happy with what our players did, because we had a great winter. That's probably one of the best winters we've had. And then those guys, we kept in touch, during the whole shutdown. I gave them a workout, said, here's your workout if you don't have weights. If you have weights, you do your normal sets and everything. and went back and forth on a couple things kids reported in, and so I thought we really stayed pretty focused on that. And then once the summer started, nobody missed. Everybody was so glad to be back and to have a weight room and to have all the stuff that nobody ever wanted to not be here. And so it was kind of a blessing in the fact that we were able to get back when we did, because you didn't know every week. Right. It was like something. And once we finally got back in there, oh, man, let's go.
Well, both Woodsy and Kron, just great young men to be around, and certainly good for our younger guys to see how to get things done, and not just in statistical, tangible things, but the intangibles, and both of those guys are examples of that.
Exactly.
Coach, thank you very much for taking time. Congratulations again, and we know that you have a lot more that you want our teams to accomplish, and it's exciting right now, as it always is for this time of year, but particularly the world we've been on.
It's been a great slide so far, and we're going to keep on rolling.
We will be back for part 2, where we will actually get to meet Damien Woodsy, as affectionately known, and Kron Coleman when we return for the second part of the Bill Neese's Coaches Show. Welcome to part 2 of the Bill Neese's Coaches Show. I'm your host, and we are going to have our seniors, who are the senior feature portion of it, introduce themselves with their name and the position that they play.
Damien Woods, wide receiver.
Kron Coleman, running back, outside linebacker.
So we are capping off of a regular season here, 6-0. Damien, as a senior, tell me how it feels to be a part of a team that finished the regular season undefeated for the first time since 1999. You weren't even thought of back then. But to be a part of a championship conference team going into the playoffs, what has that feeling like been for you?
It feels really awesome. It's like an honor. I never thought I'd be able to be a part of something like this, and I'm just proud to be here.
Kron, I know you played a major impact on that game with some scores, but that's been all year. For your perspective, knowing what you had to go through as a junior, dealing with some injuries at the end of the year, and now in a situation where you're making a historical run again for the first time since '99, that's 21 years. Undefeated, conference title, now heading for the playoffs. Really, how's that for you as a senior?
It's always fun when you're winning, and we've worked really hard for this opportunity, and we're trying to make the most of it right now.
Kron, let's talk a little bit about your individual play. You've really done a nice job on both sides of the ball, defensively and offensively, and statistically you're really a leader amongst the MVL for that, but you're also a leader in this locker room. What responsibility do you take to be that person to help lead? And a lot of times you're the guy that's not necessarily leading with words, but by action.
Yeah, I try to lead by example. I might give some of my teammates some tips and stuff like that. But, I try to help my teammates out, look out for them.
You're a pretty intense person. You're the guy that's before the game, maybe not necessarily jumping up and down, but you're the guy that's in the locker room, locked in, what needs to be done. What have you noticed about this team in terms of their abilities to get ready to play a football game on Friday night and come out of the gates ready to go right now?
Yeah, we prepare all week, and we know what we got to do, and everybody takes it serious. We have everybody's bought in, and we know what we got to do.
Damien, Friday night we win the game at Sydney. We have captured or maintained the battered helmet, captured a 6-0 season. After the game's over with, we come parading through town on the buses, police and fire. People are downtown honking their horns. Tell me a little bit about what that feeling was like to be hanging out of the bus, knowing that we had just accomplished something special.
That was really awesome. It was a lot of fun. I wasn't even expecting it on my way home. Siren just started coming on and surprised everybody. It was fun to just hang out the window and just thank everybody for coming around.
we now have to get ready for the next piece. Damien, on your end, what do you think that we need to do as a football team to continue to keep what we're doing and getting ready for the playoffs?
Honestly, keep what we're doing. Just act like we're 0-0 and just keep pushing through, practicing like we're going to win every game. And maybe at the end of the season, we got them rings on our fingers.
Well, I know that there's a long journey, and Damien, thank you for that. And as I get to you, Kron, I'm sure we've already accomplished some goals already that you might have had as a team, winning a conference title. I don't know. You've beaten your rivals Troy and Sydney at the first game of the year and the second game of the year, or excuse me, the last game of the year with Sydney. Playoffs, that's a whole nother season. It's the second season. As your teammate here said, it's 0-0. What are some things that you need to be thinking about as a leader of our team, getting our squad ready to go into postseason play?
Well, we gotta. We want to take it game by game. We want to prepare as best we can, and we just want to take it. We want to do our best, like.
Best foot forward.
Yeah, best foot forward.
Kron, one quick thing I have to ask you. You've been you're leading the team in carries and yards, and you've come up with some big scores, and particularly against Tip and Sydney. What has been the key for your success in that in offensively? Obviously, you've got a line that's helping you out, but how has it been for you in terms of knowing where to hit those gaps and that burst of speed that you have?
Well, I've been doing it for 3 years now, and we practice so much. It's almost routine, and I have experience. It's just, that's what it is.
Like I said, like you said, you're a man of action. That's for sure. That's what you get it done for us. Guys, let's talk a little bit about your future once we get past football. It's what is things going to look like for you, Damien? What are some goals of yours that you have after graduation?
I'm going to go to Sinclair, and I'm going to study criminal justice, and my plans are to become a U.S. Marshal.
Oh, good for you. What made you get into that program? What was your thoughts there?
Help people out, and get some of the bad people out of the world, and try and protect everybody around.
Well, Damien is affectionately known Woodsy. You've got that big heart. I know you're out to help a lot of not just your teammates, but your fellow comrades here in Pickle City Schools, and we know you'll be successful at it, and we certainly wish you well. Kron, it's my understanding that you've got an interest in playing college football and that you are going to be playing college football somewhere. Would you like to tell the Indian Nation where that is?
I'm not sure yet, but it might be UD. Probably that's where I'll go, but I'm not sure yet. I want to play college football though.
Academically, a lot of people see you're a good football player. What a lot of people may not know is you're a really smart young man who has an outstanding GPA. What are you thinking about studying, and what do you want to do career-wise?
I'm thinking either engineering or something with business and finance.
Well, I can tell you, Kron, whatever you decide to do, you're going to be highly successful because you're locked in everything you do, and you give 150%, and we certainly wish you well. So this is the bye week. There will be nothing on the Indian Nation station this week. AJ is grateful for a break. We will be back, however, next week as we will start talking about our opponent of who that will be. It'll either be Cincinnati Harrison or Lima Senior. This week, we're going to take ourselves and get ourselves healed up and get ourselves mentally and physically ready to go into playoffs 2020. And you'll get more information on where you can get those tickets when we host, and more information about those games here on the Indian Nation station as we go through. So for Woodsy and Kron, I'm your host, Chip Hare. We will see you next week on the Bill Neese's Coaches Show. Have a good week, everybody.